In the winter of 1801, Mr. Lockwood went looking for some peace and quiet. He rented a house in the remote English countryside, surrounded by wind-battered moors and total isolation. But when he hiked over to meet his new landlord at a neighboring estate called Wuthering Heights, the greeting was cold. The owner, Heathcliff, treated him with intense hostility, and a pack of aggressive farm dogs actually attacked him. A snowstorm trapped Lockwood there, forcing the reluctant staff to put him in a locked, forbidden bedroom. There, scratched into the bed frame, was the name Catherine, and hidden nearby, a 25-year-old diary belonging to a Catherine Earnshaw. That night, Lockwood woke to a terrifying nightmare, or a ghost. A spectral woman was outside the window, bleeding, scratching at the glass, and begging to be let in. Terrified, Lockwood fled back to his rental house at the first light of day.
He immediately cornered his housekeeper, Nellie Dean, demanding to know the history of the house. Nellie's answer revealed a dark, multi-generational history. To understand Heathcliff's cruelty in the present, we have to look at the specific circumstances that shaped his past. Decades earlier, Wuthering Heights belonged to a wealthy man named Mr. Earnshaw. Returning from a trip, he brought home a starving, orphaned young boy he found on the streets, naming him Heathcliff. Heathcliff formed an intense, almost feral bond with Earnshaw's daughter, Catherine. But Catherine's older brother, Hindley, despised the outsider. Hindley subjected Heathcliff to violent, daily abuse out of pure jealousy. When Mr. Earnshaw died, Hindley inherited the estate. His first act as master was to strip Heathcliff of his education, forcing him into the fields to work as a degraded, beaten farmhand. This map shows the stark geographical and social divide of the area. On one side, the rough, hostile terrain of Wuthering Heights. On the other, the polished, aristocratic world of Thrushcross Grange. Catherine started spending her days at the Grange, seduced by their manners and money. That taste of high society ruined her loyalty. Catherine eventually agreed to marry Edgar Linton, purely to elevate her social standing, even though she confessed to the housekeeper that her soul actually belonged to Heathcliff. But Heathcliff was eavesdropping. He heard her say it would degrade her to marry him. He left the room before hearing her true declaration of love. Devastated, he fled the estate straight into a raging midnight storm. Heathcliff left Wuthering Heights as a victim of physical beatings and social exclusion. That double-edged trauma served as the catalyst for what he would eventually become. 3 years later, Heathcliff returned. He was suddenly wealthy and highly educated, entirely consumed by a cold, calculating thirst for revenge against everyone who had wronged him. He first started with his childhood abuser. Heathcliff exploited Hindley's growing alcoholism, intentionally driving him into catastrophic gambling debt until Hindley was forced to sign over the deed to Wuthering Heights. Heathcliff next targeted Edgar Linton's sister, Isabella. He eloped with her specifically to isolate her at Wuthering Heights, subjecting her to severe physical and emotional abuse as retaliation. The constant psychological warfare tore Catherine apart. Her health collapsed, and she died shortly after giving birth to a premature daughter named Kathy. With his original abusers dead, Heathcliff projected his hatred downward. He took custody of Hindley's son, Hareton, enslaving him as an illiterate farmhand. He then kidnapped Catherine's daughter, Kathy, forcing her to marry his ill son, Linton. When Linton died, Heathcliff legally stole Thrushcross Grange. Heathcliff spent decades meticulously replicating the exact childhood traumas he suffered, inflicting them upon a completely innocent generation. He became the architect of the very abuse that ruined his own life. After hearing this horrifying history, Lockwood couldn't stomach the moors anymore. He packed his bags and retreated to the busy streets of London for 6 long months. But when business forced him back to the countryside half a year later, he arrived at Wuthering Heights to find an entirely different house. The gloomy, oppressive atmosphere was gone, replaced by the warmth of a peaceful home. Nellie, the housekeeper, filled in the missing pieces. Heathcliff was dead. After a decade of claiming he was haunted by Catherine's ghost, his mind finally snapped. He locked himself inside his room, refused to eat, and starved himself to death while staring out the window. His final obsessive instruction was to be buried in the dirt right next to Catherine,
dissolving the boundaries between them to find his only peace in the grave. With their tormentor gone, the two surviving cousins, Kathy and Hareton, were left with a choice. They had every reason to hate each other. Instead, they taught each other to read, found common ground, and fell in love. They decided to marry and permanently move out of Wuthering Heights to start fresh at Thrushcross Grange. As they packed their things, the dark shadow over the estate finally lifted. Unresolved trauma and obsessive revenge will rot a family tree down to its roots. But the cycle of abuse only stops when the next generation looks at that history and actively chooses empathy over retaliation.